Hi, this is Mr. Kingsbury. Today, in our absolute value unit, we will be talking about solving equations again. Of course, this is Algebra 2. Don't forget the date and the period that you have me. We have already talked about solving equations a little bit. We looked at some of the simpler ones. We talked about how there can be two possible answers, or just one, or none. We talked about something called extraneous solutions. Those are solutions that look like they should work, but when you plug them back in, they don't. Today I want to add to that with just some more difficult examples, that's all. Our essential question is, how do I solve absolute value equations? I have 3 examples for you. I'm going to go through them. Hopefully it won't take very long, and then we should be done. So let's just jump right in. Here's example 1. Let's say I give you the equation 2 times the absolute value of x plus 5 minus 3 equals 7. Now, as we mentioned in the other video, you have to get rid of this stuff on the outside first before we can deal with the absolute value sign and then the stuff inside. You technically could either divide everything by 2, or you could add 3 to both sides. Either of those is a good first step. What I'm going to point out is, if you divide by 2, you need to divide here, here, and here. And both 3 and 7 are not even numbers. So dividing by 2 is going to create some fractions. Now, if you're okay with that, no big deal. And they will work themselves out eventually to where you won't have fractions again. Some people, a lot of people, don't like fractions. So rather than doing the division first, they would rather add 3 to both sides. Now on the right, 7 plus 3 is 10. No big. On the left, the 3's combine and they give me 0. And that leaves me with 2 times the absolute value of x plus 5. Now I can do my division by 2. I'll do both sides. On the right side, 10 divided by 2 is 5. On the left side, 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 1 times the absolute value of x plus 5 is the absolute value of x plus 5. So, we've gotten rid of all the stuff on the outside. Now we get rid of the absolute value bars. And to do that, we must write 2 equations. First, we write x plus 5 equals 5. That's the one that's there. No big deal. We also then write x plus 5 equals negative 5. We need to solve both and check both. So let's go back over here. X plus 5 equals 5. To solve that, I will subtract 5 from both sides. On the right side, 5 minus 5 is 0. On the left side, 5 minus 5 is also 0. Cancels out and leaves me with just x. So I get x equals 0. Now I need to check that. So I'm going to go ahead and put 0 back in my original equation and see what happens. 2 times the absolute value of 0 plus 5 minus 3 should equal 7. And if you evaluate this, 0 plus 5 is 5. The absolute value of 5 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. 10 minus 3 is 7. So on the left side, I get 7. On the right side, there is nothing to do. I mean, there's a 7, but there's nothing to simplify. It's just 7. So then I ask myself, is 7 equal to 7? And the answer is yes, of course. So this works, which means this works. Yay! Now let's try the other side. We got x plus 5 equals negative 5. Once again, I will subtract 5 from both sides. This time on the right, negative 5 minus 5 is negative 10. On the left, these cancel out. They become a big 0. X plus 0 is x. So we have x equals negative 10. And the question is, does that work? So we'll plug it back into the original equation. 2 times the absolute value of negative 10 plus 5 minus 3 should equal 7. Negative 10 plus 5 is negative 5. The absolute value of negative 5 is positive 5. Positive 5 times 2 is 10. 10 minus 3 is 7. You can also just type it into a calculator if you want. On the right side, we have just 7. So I ask, is 7 equal to 7? It is. So both of those work. Outstanding. example 2. We've got 4 times the absolute value of x equals 16x minus 12. Now only one, I realize there's an x on both sides, only one side has an absolute value. So that's the side we're going to focus on. I need to get the absolute value part by itself. It's being multiplied by 4, so I need to divide by 4, which means I need to divide this by 4 and divide that by 4. Now here's the cool part. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 1 times the absolute value of x is the absolute value of x. Over here, 16 divided by 4 is 4. So we got 4x, and negative 12 divided by 4 is negative 3. So I end up with the absolute value of x equals 4x minus 3. At this point then I need to get rid of the absolute value bars, and I do that by writing 2 different equations. One will simply be x equals 4x minus 3. The other will be, let's call it negative x. Actually, that's a little different than what I've been doing. I did that because it's easier just to change one term than 2, but technically what I've been doing is changing this side. So we've got x equals 4x minus 3. Over here we'll have x equals negative 4x plus 3. You change both of these. Alrighty, so let's solve it. On this side I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. 1x minus 4x is negative 3x. 4x minus 4x is 0. 0 minus 3 is negative 3. I will divide both sides by negative 3, and I get that x equals 1. And then I can check that. So I'll plug 1 into my original equation, which was 4 times the absolute value of 1, and that should equal 16 times 1 minus 12. So on this side, the absolute value of 1 is 1, and 1 times 4 is 4. On the right side, 16 times 1 is 16, minus 12 is 4. Is 4 equal to 4? It is, which means x equals 1 is the solution. Now let's look at the other equation here. We got x equals negative 4x plus 3. I'm going to add 4x to both sides. So I get 5x equals negative 4x plus 4x is 0. 0 plus 3 is 3. And then I will divide both sides by 5. X equals 3/5. And the question is, does that work? I don't know. Let's find out. 4 times the absolute value of 3/5 should equal 16 times 3/5 minus 12. So let's look at the left-hand side. The absolute value of 3/5 is 3/5. And if I multiply that by 4, I get 12/5. On the other side, 16 times 3/5, that ends up being 48/5 minus 12. My bad. Yeah, 48/5 minus 12. And when we do 48/5 minus 12, we end up getting negative 12/5. So, is positive 12/5 equal to negative 12/5? No, which means 3/5 is not a solution. The only solution is x equals 1. And I just realized that I did all of that where you couldn't see it. So there it is. My apologies. You didn't get to see any of that, and I feel really bad about it. But there it is, so you can work through it. Sorry about that. If you need to pause the video, feel free. I need to get to example 3 though, so I'm going to go ahead and turn the page. Let's make sure you can actually see example 3. We got negative 5 times the absolute value of 2x minus 3 plus 8 is going to equal 48. As always, we got to get rid of this stuff outside first, so I will subtract 8 first from both sides. On the right side, 48 minus 8 is 40. On the left side, 8 minus 8 is 0. So negative 5 times the absolute value of 2x minus 3 plus 0 is just negative 5 times the absolute value of 2x minus 3. Then I will divide both sides by negative 5. Negative 5 divided by negative 5 is 1. 1 times the absolute value of 2x minus 3 is the absolute value of 2x minus 3. On the other side, 40 divided by negative 5 is negative 8. So I got rid of the stuff outside the absolute value bars. Now I have to get rid of the bars themselves. To do that, I need to write my two equations. So one of them will just be 2x minus 3 equals negative 8. The other one will be 2x minus 3 equals positive 8. So let's solve these. I will add 3 to both sides. Negative 8 plus 3 is negative 5. Negative 3 plus 3 is 0. 2x minus 0 is 2x. Then I can divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 times x is x. And then I got negative 5 halves, which is negative 2.5. So let's test it. Negative 5 times the absolute value of 2 times negative 2.5 minus 3 plus 8 equals 48. Let's see what happens. Negative 2.5 times 2 is negative 5. Negative 5 minus 3 is negative 8. The absolute value of negative 8 is positive 8. Positive 8 times negative 5 is negative 40. Negative 40 plus 8 is negative 32. Is negative 32 equal to 48? Nope. Which means negative 2.5 is not a solution. Then let's check the other one out here. So again, I will add 3 to both sides. Negative 3 plus 3 is 0. 2x plus 0 is 2x. 8 plus 3 is 11. Then I will divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 times x is x. 11 divided by 2 is 5.5. So let's see if that works. We'll have negative 5 times the absolute value of 2 times 5.5 minus 3 plus 8 equals 48. 5.5 times 2 is 11. 11 minus 3 is 8. The absolute value of 8 is positive 8. Times negative 5 is negative 40. Negative 40 plus 8 is negative 32. Is negative 32 equal to 48? Nope. So is x equal to 5.5? Nope. Since neither of my x values work, I don't have any solutions. That means there is no solution. So that is what I am going to write. Those are the examples I got for you. We're going to do some more practicing in class. I'll see you then. Later.